Mishmin Tuhis, Kanrakat Canyon, Coyote Woman, Sarah's Roots. I come from Indian Canyon Nation. Indian Canyon is in the central coast of California. It is in the southern part of what we call the Bay Area, and the Bay Area is known as Ohlone territory, and my community is of the Mutsun linguistic territory. So I identify as Mutsun Ohlone from the Bay Area of California in the United States, and I am a cultural representative of my tribal nation. So Indian Canyon Nation is a way of identifying who I am and the little valley that I come from. And I am blessed to be here at this international gathering. And when I think about how deeply impacted we are by, I call it Western settler colonialism, how this colonial energy has come to the Americas and also impacted around the world. Thinking about indigenous peoples around the world are all impacted by colonialism, as an outsider coming in demanding that they think they know what's right, that their way is the only way, their way is the correct way. And it disturbs the indigenous peoples. And so when I think about the impact of settler colonialism and how problematic it has hurt the indigenous peoples of California so dramatically that my own community struggle with some of our own cultural connections. Like my mother was raised by my grandmother, who was pulled into a Catholic convent, and those belief systems were indoctrinated upon her. And when my mother taught me how to just set a table using the forks and the napkins that my mom cannot handle, when I wipe my hand on the plate or even lick the plate, my mother grosses out, says, "Oh, why are you touching food with your hands?" And I'm sitting here like, because we didn't have forks traditionally. And so when I think about how much we've deviated or disconnected from our original pathways, our original teachings, I think about how impactful colonization has been on Native peoples. And when I think about the devastation, because settler colonialism is divorced or not responsible to the sacred. It is of a disposable society model. It is resource extractive. It is entitled. It is negligent of the sacred. It is just a resource extractive of natural resources and of black and brown bodies. And it's not healthy because it forgets its responsibility to be a good community member and be accountable to how our actions impact not only ourselves or our community, and not just human to human community. I mean all natural and sacred living systems, how the plants and the animals are impacted, the waterways. And so the Western settler mindset is focused on greed, what it wants, what it needs, me, my. And many indigenous communities that I have witnessed are very altruistic about our community taking care of each other. Many of the indigenous teachings that I have been taught, to show your wealth, you give a lot. So to show and brag how rich you are, it's not hoarding of resources, it's sharing of resources, because when you give, it will come full circle. And so when I think about the impact of colonization and what it has done to indigenous peoples, it breaks my heart, because we have forgotten to take care of our waterways. We have forgotten to thank these living relatives, how they nourish our bodies. We have forgotten to give thanks before a meal, give thanks to a new day, offer prayers of well-being and guidance. And indigenous peoples around the world have always taught me that we are to be humble, we are to be accountable and reciprocal to where it is that we are on our mother, because a prayer in my language, Pide Kanama Si Kampatian Hito Konoso Soto Konoso, translates to earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. And that is a prayer and a song that I've heard in pagan communities as well, those communities that are reconnecting to their indigeneity. So when I think about talking to people, especially in America, especially in California, when people are reconnecting or learning about Native people, some people really want to be Native. They're like, oh, I might have a Native ancestor. They might say, well, I'm Native too, or I might be. And I say, well, we all can honor our indigeneity. If we're not on the homeland of our ancestors, how are we being good guests? How are we acknowledging the history of the land that came before us? How are we being good ancestors and training going forward in a good way?
Once again, to the